Part 3, Kenan, page 203 to page 216. Kenan moves at a determined pace through the town, over the eastbound tram tracks, north through the Strassmeyer Street, and over the westbound tram tracks. As he reaches the other side of the main road, he stops for a rest, lets his bottles sink to the ground. As he prepares to lift them again, he sees Ishmet coming down the hill and he waits as his friend approaches. Ishmet smiles at him when he sees him. "What took you so long?" Kenan doesn't smile back. He isn't sure what to say. There was a shelling at the brewery. Ishmet nods, his face turned grim. Ishmet smiles at him. "What took you so long?" Kenan doesn't smile back. He isn't sure what to say. There was a shelling at the brewery. Ishmet nods, his face turned grim. "Are you okay?" he asks, looking him over. "I'm fine. Where are you going?" He knows that Ishmet can tell he's not fine, but he doesn't want to talk about it now. "The market. Come with me," he says, moving to pick up Kenan's water. "Are you out of centipedes already?" Kenan heaves the water up before Ishmet can take it. "Let me help you, at least." "It's fine. There's no way to balance it if you help, really." He turns west towards the market. "Let's go." He has 15 marks in his pocket. If he's lucky, he might be able to find something that's a deal, something for the children, perhaps. As they walk towards the market, he notices that Ishmet isn't smoking. Normally he would, he thinks, and a part of him wishes Ishmet would offer him another cigarette. He wonders if he is the reason Ishmet isn't smoking, if he feels obliged to share. The market is crowded, and Kenan is made bulky by his water. "Wait here," Ishmet says. "I'll see if there's anything worth buying. I'll come get you if there is." He watches Ishmet disappear into the throng. This is one of the city's busiest outdoor markets. That's not a large space, and they've crammed as many tables into the square as they can. It's not the real black market, this place, though it's certain that many of the items for sale have entered the city through illicit means. He's been shopping here for most of his life, and a good percentage of the food that he's eaten, the food that has built him into the person who stands here now, has come from these tables. He never imagined that it could feel as though his market was holding him hostage. Kenan thinks about the tunnel, how it could be used to get all the children out of Sarajevo, how it could be used as a way to save the city. Instead, it's lined with rails to carry cars that bring in the goods that are being sold here at ridiculously inflated prices. It's the new tram. And then Kenan understands what happened to his washing machine. He hadn't thought about it at the time, but what would anyone want with an electrical appliance in a city that didn't have electricity? He sees now that the rail cars that enter Sarajevo laden with goods bound for the black market do not leave empty. Somewhere in a city other than this hell, someone is washing their clothes in a machine they purchased for a song, knowing or not knowing that they are accomplices in the destruction of his city. Up the street to the west, he sees a man standing beside a black Mercedes. He's dressed in a brand new tracksuit, and he's clearly well fed. He stands, smoking, seeming to be waiting for something. Every so often, he looks up the street towards Kenan in the direction traffic comes from. A large truck drives by. Kenan recognizes it from the brewery. One of the trucks used to haul water that sped by him on his way up the hill. He assumed it was bound for the troops at the front lines or the hospital. But the truck stops behind the black Mercedes, and the driver gets out and talks to the man standing beside it. He can't tell what they were saying, but the man hands the driver a piece of paper and slaps him on the back. The driver gets back into the truck and pulls out into the street and disappears down the road. Kenan has no idea where he's going, but he understands completely what he's just seen, knows that the water in the truck isn't bound for anyone who deserves it. At first, he just stands there, shocked, but as it sinks in, he begins to understand. Of course they buy and sell water. They buy and sell everything else. Why should this be different? If he had money himself, he would pay whatever it costs to take this day back, to not have seen what he has seen and done what he has. But it isn't right all the same. They should not be able to do this. And now he is angry. All he sees is the man in the tracksuit beside the Mercedes, and all he wants to do is put his hands around his throat. He takes a step forward, feels the rope that holds his water falls from his shoulders. He stops, takes another step, stops again. He can't afford to leave the water. It'd be gone before he even got to the man in the tracksuit. Kenan goes back, retrieves the fallen rope. He heaves up the water, its weight now a familiar burden. It seems unlikely to him that he will ever be free of it. So be it. He'll carry this water on his back forever, like Atlas and his world, and that is fine. He lurches forward, his vision tunneling into the man in the tracksuit. The man is smoking a cigarette, looking back towards the marketplace. His movement is languid. He is not in any particular hurry. He turns, looks in Kenan's direction. He looks right at him, seems to laugh at the sight of him trying to run while carrying all this water. The man doesn't know that Kenan is coming for him, that he is the reason for a comical sight he smiles at. This only makes Kenan angrier. The man in the tracksuit flicks his cigarette onto the ground, walks around to the other side of the car, and opens it. He digs around in his pockets until he finds a pair of sunglasses. He breathes on the lenses, wipes them on the t-shirt he wears under his tracksuit, and gets into the car. The Mercedes rumbles to life and accelerates into the street. By the time it disappears from view, Kenan is only 3/4 of the way to where the man was standing. Kenan continues on. He stops where the Mercedes was parked, looks down at a man's discarded cigarette. It still smokes, unfinished, a good amount of tobacco remaining. It's an American kind, the kind Kenan never really liked, but would smoke if he had to. He hasn't had one of these since the war started. An old woman scuttles past him, bends down, and picks up the cigarette. With a shriveled hand, she drops it into a tin can and continues down the street, never glancing up. She looks more like a crab than a person. He hears music. It's faint and the sound comes and goes, sometimes drowned out by the noise of the street, or in the quieter moments it returns. Without knowing why, without feeling he has to have a good reason, Kenan follows the sound across the street and back into town. After a short block, the music grows louder, and he sees a small crowd of people standing tight up against the buildings lining the south end of the street. They are all looking at something, he can't tell what. He turns the corner and sees what it is they're looking at. He finds a spot against the wall, sets down his water bottles, and joins them. Kenan knows this man. He's seen him play before, though he can't remember where. His tuxedo is dirty, and his shoes are scuffed. His hair is black and matted, and his beard a patchy accessory to a thick, long mustache. There are large, dark circles under his eyes. The man looks like he's been in a fight, and he looks like he's lost. Kenan has heard of this. Someone, maybe Ishmet, maybe his wife, has told him that the cellist was playing every day in the street, where the people were killed while lining up for bread. It was a week or so ago. The cellist saw the whole thing happen, watched it from his window. When Kenan was told of what the cellist was doing, he didn't say anything, but thought it was a bit silly, a bit maudlin. What could the man possibly hope to accomplish by playing music in the street? It wouldn't bring back anyone from the dead, wouldn't field anyone, wouldn't replace one brick. It was a foolish gesture, he thought, a pointless exercise in futility. None of this matters to Kenan anymore. He stares at the cellist and feels himself relax as the music seeps into him. He watches as the cellist's hair smooths itself out, his beard disappears. A dirty tuxedo becomes clean, shoes polished bright as mirrors. Kenan hasn't heard the cellist's tune before, but he knows it anyways. Its notes familiar and full of pride, a young boy in a new coat holding his father's hand as he walks down a winter street. The building behind the cellist repairs itself. The scars of bullets and shrapnel are covered by plaster and paint, and the windows reassemble, clarify and sparkle as the sun reflects off glass. The cobblestones of the road set themselves straight. Around him, people stand up taller, their faces put on weight and color. Clothes gain lost thread, brighten, smooth out their wrinkles. Kenan watches as his city heals itself around him. The cellist continues to play, and Kenan knows what he will do now. He will walk up the street to his apartment. He'll take the stairs, 2 at a time, not even breathing fast, and throw open his door. Amila will be surprised to see him, and he'll grab her and kiss her like he used to when they were younger. He'll run his fingers through her thick, wavy hair, the color of honey. Their son, Mac, will walk into the room wondering what the commotion is. Gross, he'll say when he sees them, and Amila will pull away from him laughing. Together they'll all walk down into the city. He'll hold his younger daughter's hand. Daddy, she'll say, can we have ice cream? Kenan will smile and say yes, and Sanya will squeeze his hand tighter, excited. His oldest, Ida, will pout a little at first, concerned that she may miss the plans to see a movie with her boyfriend, whom Kenan is still not sure he likes, but it won't take long for her to soften up. She has never been able to stay mad very long, just like her mother. They'll tramp through the city, through Bascaria, down past the library, where there is a concert taking place under the glass dome of the main hall. At a small restaurant just west of the library, which he's been going to since he was a boy, they'll eat until their stomachs can hold no more. He will have lamb stew and svapi, and laugh at the waiter when he spills the coffee on the table, their hands darting out to save their food and stop the hot liquid from running onto their laps. On the way home, they will stop, and Sanya will get her ice cream, and though Kenan can tell she's full, she'll insist on eating and finishing the whole thing, which will make Amila worry a little. They'll be tired, full, and slightly sleepy, so they'll take the tram to the foot of their street instead of walking home, and Kenan will stand holding onto the rail while his family sits. The city will slide by him like water in the Miljaka, its streets full of people. Normal, happy people worried only about whether it might rain tomorrow. They'll get off the tram, and Kenan will watch until it curves out of sight, heading west towards the airport. Tomorrow he'll catch it bright and early, be at work before anyone else. Chelsea lost today, and he'll give Goran a hard time, ask him why he can't cheer for a proper team. He will hug his daughter Ida, who's off to a movie. Be careful, he'll tell her. Teenage boys are nothing but trouble. She'll roll her eyes at this, but then she'll lean in and kiss him on the cheek. I know, Dad, she'll say, and he'll press some money into her hand. Buy your own popcorn, that way you're not beholden. She'll roll her eyes at him again, but she's not mad, and he'll stand with his arm around Amila and watch as she crosses the street, hurrying, not wanting to be late. Kenan will look at his wife and then his daughter and son, and he will know how happy he is, and none of this will ever be taken away from him. But it is all taken away. The music is over, the notes stop. He's back on the street where 22 people were killed while waiting to buy bread. Maybe a blue van took their bodies away. Maybe their heads lolled back as they were loaded in, giving them one final look at the street where they were killed. The cellist rests his hands, opens his eyes. He doesn't acknowledge the small crowd, and they don't applaud. A few people have laid flowers at his feet, but they are not for him. Kenan wishes he had something to leave, but all he has is water and 15 German marks. The flowers on the ground are beyond watering. Nothing he has will make the least bit of difference. The cellist stands, picks up his stool, and turns away from the street, enters the doorway, and is gone. Kenan wonders for a moment if he was ever there. The crowd of people disperses, a few at a time, until there is just Kenan and one old woman. She stands looking at the pile of flowers and the blast mark on the pavement where the motor landed. She turns to Kenan. My daughter, she says. She was here to buy bread. Kenan isn't sure why the old woman is telling him this. She didn't need any, but I asked her to see if she could get me some. The woman's voice is soft, calm. It seems to her that her tone doesn't fit with what she's telling him. He tries to think of something he can say that will mean something, that will bring her comfort or hope or anything positive, but he can't. He nods at her, feels his chest tighten. What should I tell my grandchildren when they ask how their mother died? She turns away, and Kenan understands that she does not expect an answer to her question. He has none to give her. They stand silent and look at the street and the flowers. A shell falls behind them somewhere on the left bank of the river, but neither flinches. After a while, the old woman moves to leave. Did your daughter like the cello? Kenan asks, surprising himself. He doesn't know why he asked this, isn't sure why it matters. The woman stops, and he's afraid he's made things worse, spoken out of turn. I don't know, she says. She never said so to me. I think she was a great lover of music, he says. And he does think this, is sure of it. The old woman turns, looks at him, but he can't tell what's in her mind. She exhales a long, slow breath, smiles a small smile. She nods twice, turns, and continues down the street. Kenan stays a while longer, then picks up his water and goes back to the market. As he's about to cross the street, he sees Ishmat. He's bargaining with the man, hands waving wildly, striking the air. The man doesn't relent, or at least he doesn't appear to. Ishmat's hands sink, his shoulders slump a little, and shaking his head, he reaches into his pocket and pulls out 3 packs of cigarettes. He places them on the table, and the man hands him some bills. Kenan watches as Ishmat takes the bills to a table in the middle of the market, where he trades them with a woman for a small bag of rice. It's what the world sent them, a relief. And though it's not supposed to be sold, it is. Kenan knows that Ishmat risked his life for those cigarettes, got them as a substitute for pay from the army. Now he's watched his friend trade them for something that he should have been given for free in the first place, but wasn't. So greasy men in tracksuits and greasy men in business suits can get rich. There's a sound of shouting coming from Grabaka, and every so often he hears shelling on the left bank and also to the west near the airport. The men on the hills are busy today. Their business is brisk, and they will have a lot of customers. He thinks about the woman whose daughter was killed in the bread line, wonders how many women there are like her in the city, how many people will walk the streets as ghosts. It must be a lot. They can fill up every spare scrap of land with graves. They can turn every park and football field and yard into a graveyard, and that will still not account for the dead. There are dead among the living, and they will be here long after this madness ends, if it ever ends. He thinks of Mrs. Rostovsky. He doesn't know what made her the way she is, but something has killed her. He can see now that she is a ghost as well. She's been a ghost for a long time. And to be a ghost while you're still alive is the worst thing he can imagine. Because, like it or not, sooner or later we will all become ghosts. We are washed away from the ground until even the memory of us is gone. But there's a time when we are not, and you have to know the difference. Once you forget, then you are a ghost. Kenan will not be a ghost. Enough has been done to this city in the name of ghosts, he tells himself, as though saying it will make it true. You are not a ghost, you are not a ghost. But as he repeats these words, he knows that saying them will not make them true. All the words in the world cannot keep him from fading away. He sees Ismet coming out of the market, walking to the spot where he left Kenan. Kenan picks up his water and moves away from the market. Ismet won't find him waiting, but he'll probably figure he got tired and took his water home. He'll see him later on. They'll share a joke about their families and hope for this to be over. They are the ones who will rebuild Sarajevo when the time comes. They will put every brick back, replace every window, patch every hole. They'll rebuild the city without knowing whether this is the last time it will be done. They will earn the right to do this any way they can, and when it is done, they'll rest. Kenan turns south, away from home. In a few hours it will be dark, and he'll be home long before then. He begins to work his way towards the Kumria Bridge, where 2 bottles of water without handles wait for him in a small hole.